Timta Abdur Kul Shayuat Bi Wahsamus Shil Pa Timta Anuki Maku Nubu Atyunat Sagar Maku Shil Atsik Hata Am Shil Yamasi Nuwabianat Wahaza Kalum Tamadin Arbed Bi Utspu. Rahuat, I'm Chief Nanya Shaabu of the Atsikata Nation of Yamasee Moors. This is Weekly Word 84. And in this Weekly Word, we are going to bring up the issue with Umar Johnson's magnificent interview that was on Roland Martin. What's interesting is that Roland Martin, I had DM'd him on Twitter when he was getting on Bow Wow, when Bow Wow said he was white and American Indian, and everyone started flipping out, not seeing that it's about commerce, not about skin color. And Roland Martin never responded back. So now it's interesting that this week Umar Johnson is on Roland Martin's show, and we've already done an expose on Roland Martin. Roland Martin himself was, of course, being in a fraternity, so their oath is to the skull and bones, which is to keep black people down and not tell them the true history and facts of themselves. So we're going to go and look at the interview here with Umar Johnson. We're going to go point by point. This is how you do, this is logic, this is reason, this is how a real debate is done. Someone makes a statement, if it's incorrect, you play their statement, go back at the video or audio recording document and say, okay, this is what they said, what's going on here, okay? So we're going to go do this right now. I'm just going to back this up here.
Umar Johnson recently. Alright folks, Dr. Umar Johnson recently was on 105.1 FM out of New York, The Breakfast Club, with DJ Envy, Angela Yee, and Charlamagne the God. During the interview, Johnson talked about a whole range of issues that led to him being the talk of black Twitter last week. A lot of people were questioning his educational credentials.
Okay, before we get to that, now look at Roland Martin's skin. What color is that, people? Brown. Look at the suit he's wearing. Now I will say black. Now if I'm incorrect, that means it would be a navy blue. So again, this is black here. This is brown. His hair is black. Skin brown. Just thought y'all might want to know that.
Now people ask me, what can we expect from a Donald Trump White House for Black America? And the answer is real simple. You can expect exactly what you got from a Obama White House. Absolutely nothing.
And that's true. He told you all the truth, because Barack said what? Black has no standing at law.
Black people know they're not American.
Okay, so if black people know they are not American, he's including Charlamagne the God here in that statement. So since you all already know this, you all are perpetuating the genocide, apartheid, rape, etc. against your own, because you will not tell them the truth, because you all are getting paid dollars to keep the secret.
But they will fight like hell to protect that identity, because they don't want to be identified with who they really are, and that's being African.
No, not being African, Umar Johnson, being indigenous. Now notice what Umar Johnson is wearing. He's wearing a cultural attire here. Pay attention to this, everyone. I'm going to let it sit there for a second. Let your brain soak that in. So this is what he's wearing on Charlamagne the God on the Breakfast Club show.
As long as you have a skill, you can always feed your family. But if all you got is college degrees, you might end up in the unemployment line. I'm a psychologist. Ain't too many black people running around looking for a psychologist to reveal all the skeletons in their closet.
All right, folks, joining us right now, Dr. Umar Johnson. Welcome back to the show.
And this is what they said. Dr. Umar Johnson, may we see your 6 degrees? Because everyone has been saying they have no validation. They haven't seen where he worked in the Philadelphia school system, where he graduated from, and the one what was she called? Psychoanalyst? She stated that she actually did find out the school he went to, but the tuition was over $100,000. And so with the tuition of over $100,000, there wasn't a lot of black students at that school. She put it on the internet. We found out, who told those on our weekly address. So this has been coming up. Where are your credentials? We're in the age of walking in the light of the sun. And in a sun cycle, you have to lay it all out. Okay, continuing on.
First and foremost.
Now, stop. First mistake. You're on News 1 and you said they deny who they are, they know they're not black, and they're denying the fact they're African. I'm paraphrasing and quoting what he said, which is Umar Johnson here. Now, why are you wearing a suit and tie? And if we look at this, this is really a noose. That is what this is. It's not aesthetic for any Melaninite in the year 2017 with all the killings going on to be wearing ties. That's considered part of, popular culture, and they say, hey, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Well, that would apply if you are a citizen in your corporation. Most certainly you do. Now, if you're indigenous, no. So he's wearing a suit and tie right off the top. Major mistake. If you present yourself just like how he got that here on the Breakfast Club in cultural attire. Why are you coming on with a suit and tie? You look like a European, Umar Johnson.
It was amazing looking at this whole reaction. I mean, I'm sitting here, again, people asking all kind of questions, things are blowing up. And so many people jumped on saying he's not a real doctor. Mm-hmm. Okay? Where did you graduate from and you got your PhD?
Mm-hmm. My undergraduate education was from Millersville University. 3 degrees, political science, psychology, master's in school psychology. Subsequent to...
So he's an educator, child therapist, and Pan-Africanist. Okay, you're an educator.
That Pennsylvania certification as a school psychologist, which I've been for almost 20 years. After that, I got my educational leadership master's degree and principal certificate from Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And I earned my doctorate degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, American Psychological Association approved program, one of the top psychology training programs on the East Coast. 6 degrees in all, and anyone can lift up a telephone and call and verify those degrees.
So when you see folks who question your degrees, your response?
It's because my narrative is a whole lot different from the average mainstream black scholar. I don't...
Called himself a black scholar. What did Barack Obama say on the Tom Joyner Morning Show? Black has no standing at law. Black is an adjective. Black is not a race. It is not a language. It is not a culture. There isn't even a black land.
Don't parrot the narrative that the American social order wants black scholars to parrot. I tell the truth. I don't scratch unless I itch, and I don't dance unless I like the music.
Okay, so you tell the truth, and you're an educator. Okay, Umar Johnson. These are the definitions for new race and ethnicity categories, and they were developed in 1997 by the Office of Management and Budget, and they are used to describe groups to which individuals belong, identify with, or belong in the eyes of the community. The categories do not denote scientific definitions of anthropological origins. The designations are used to categorize U.S. citizens, which are corporations, resident aliens, people who become corporations, and other eligible non-citizens. Now, when we look according to the IPEDS, which is the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, that's what the acronym stands for. This is, of course, supported, mandated, authorized by the U.S. Department of Education. And remember, Umar Johnson said he is an educator on the Roland Martin Show, News 1. So when we go up here, and we see the definition of black or African American, we will see a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Now notice, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. There are no black racial groups of Africa. Being that he has a PhD, Umar Johnson is very well aware of this. Roland Martin is aware of this because I DM'd him on Twitter, and the screenshots are on Facebook. Further, when you look at all the different racial classifications, it all says a person having origins in any of the original peoples. So American Indian or Alaska Native is a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America. And as everyone knows, with the book by Ivan van Sertima, they came before Columbus. It talks about the Moors and the Olmecs, who are dark-skinned, looking very much like Umar Johnson, who means cultural identification through tribal affiliation or community attachment. This definition applies to what would be called the African American. Asians are peoples. Native Hawaiians are peoples. White are original peoples. Now, the definition of whites is a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. And as any black scholar knows, Europe is named after an Ethiopian princess named Europa. The Middle East is Africa, and North Africa is Africa. So white is what the U.S. government is telling black people what they really are. And Umar Johnson is 100% correct. I'll say 1,000% correct. Black people know they are not black, but they will fight to maintain that they are black because they don't want to accept the fact that they are white. Commercially, they're indigenous, organically. Okay, so now let's go back to the video. So if he's telling the truth, he's supposed to be at his lectures, Umar Johnson, you should be breaking out this IPEDS, definition for new race and ethnicity categories, which you don't. The U.S. Census also says that this is the U.S. Census pertaining to race. The 1997 OMB standards, and he said he's been around for 20 years, so why has he not talked about this? It said the OMB standards permit the reporting of more than one race, and an individual's response to the race question is based upon self-identification. So you can self-identify as white. Yes, you can. You can scratch off and kick out the black and say and self-identify as white and American Indian. You can do that. The U.S. government's allowing you to do it. Census is doing it. CDC is doing it. ACRO is doing it, which is global, and this is a global standard. So all the black educators out there, you are programming. You are not educating. Because once an individual is educated, they utilize what they learn in their lives for practical, realistic purposes. Calling yourself African American or black is no advantage to you. It's non-existent. It's not a people. You're called dead in the eyes of the law. Civilitas mortuus. That's the Latin. Then when we go down here, what is race? It says again, the Census Bureau collects racial data in accordance with guidelines provided by the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, and these data are based on what? Self-identification. So you can self-identify as white. Okay, so let's get back to the video here. So much for telling the truth. He doesn't do that.
And because they're not used to having someone with a traditional education posit non-traditional views, people will automatically start to question his credentials. How did he get this far believing what he believes in? Well, you have to play the spook who sat by the door. When I got accepted into those 3 universities, they didn't know what I believed in. They didn't know what I stood for. But as time went on, it revealed itself. But I'm unapologetically African, so I'm not really concerned with what people think about me personally. I have a job to do, and that is to awaken the sleeping consciousness of African people, not just in America, but all across the world.
Okay, now you're using the word African, which comes from the Arabic Ifriqiya, which means to separate. So that's a major error for Umar to call himself an African. Because as we can see, if he's calling himself an African, and we'll accept that, okay, you're an African, Umar, then you have to be what? White. Because black or African American, there are no black racial groups of Africa. See, African is a very general term. What tribe, what lineage, what village, what clan are you from, Umar Johnson? When you can say that, then this applies to you. But this, if you're using this, anyone who's dark-skinned using this in the West and the world, you're a fool. Black, calling yourself black, you're calling yourself a fool because you're saying you don't exist.
One of the things that you said during the interview, you said that Mandarin was one of the official languages in South Africa.
Yes, sir.
And others said you were dead wrong.
Yes, because I didn't clarify that I was speaking of it being an official language in the public school system of South Africa. So I should have clarified that Mandarin is an official language in the Republic of South Africa's school system. It's not an official language in the country, it's an official language in the school system. And I was speaking of schools, but I didn't clarify that, so that's my responsibility.
Also, during that particular interview, you talked about a variety of issues that also got people talking. One of them dealt with your views on interracial marriage.
Yes, sir.
And so, so explain that for folks who did not hear.
Certainly. Simply put, any black man who is with a woman who's not an African herself is going to have a difficult time getting respect from me. I believe black men need to be with black women. The black family is under attack. Only 1 out of every 4 black women gets married. The black woman is last likely to get married. She's the last married, the first divorced. We have, what, 2/3 of our children being raised by working class and impoverished single black female-led households. The destruction of a nation begins in the home of its families. And if we want to save black people, we have to save the black family. And in order to do that, black men have to commit themselves to black women.
Okay, now we're going to go to this next tab here. Definitions for new race and ethnicity categories by Crow, which is Advancing Global Higher Education. What is the definition for black? A person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Again, Umar Johnson, all these black educators, black PhDs, black scholars, all of you all are useless. That's including David Imhotep, that's including Cornel West, Dick Gregory. All of you all are so educated, you are stupid. You're programmed and you know it. The English language is saying the government that you turn around and 1 minute you're an American, the next minute you're independent. Which is it? Either you're a slave or you're free. They're telling you, we know you black African American people are white, but we've already pre-programmed you psychologically by having you from the time you've been a little one to call yourself black, and you identify with that because you don't know this is a commercial world. And all the other races know it's about what? The commerce. Didn't you listen to Wu-Tang? Cash rules everything around me, dollar bill, y'all. So you got to understand the commercial terms that affect you and are identifying with you. And so this term, black, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa, there are none. None. So, saving the black family, forget it. You can forget saving the black family. The black family has no standing at law. The people who are African who come over, they are treated differently because they have a culture, a heritage. They don't associate with the commercial terms, and what they do is they are given different commercial terms than you all who are born here in the West indigenously. That includes South America and the Caribbean as well. Alright, so let's go back to the video.
So when you talk about not getting your respect, so if that's the case, you're saying President Barack Obama didn't get your respect because his dad married a white woman?
Oh, not at all.
Would Harry Belafonte?
Not at all. I want to be very clear about something. As Pan-Africanists, the product of an interracial...
Okay, I hate that word, Pan-Africanist. See if I could get some online etymology. Because the word pan goes back to Panic, who was a centaur in Greek mythology. And he used to, if you watch the old Hercules cartoons, he used to sit there and play his little... what do you call it? The pipes. Alright, so let's look up the etymology of the word pan. Arcadian shepherd god with upper body of a man and horns and lower part like a goat. Late 14th century, a god of the woods and fields. From Latin, from the Greek pan. Klein says perhaps cognate with the Sanskrit Pusan, a Vedic god, guardian and multiplier of cattle and other human possessions, literally nourisher. Similarity to Pan, all, led to his being regarded as a personification of nature. Panpipe, upon which he supposedly played, is attested from 1820. Okay, so Pan is also a word forming element, meaning all, whole, every, all inclusive. So again, you can't use the word Pan-Africanist on a job application. You can't use Pan-Africanist buying stocks or bonds. You can't use Pan-Africanist when you are doing commerce or establishing a trust or leaving a will. Pan-Africanist is irrelevant. So as you're interfacing with the commercial system, you must use commercial terms. You black scholars out there, you have failed all your students. And for the ones that do know about the SF-181s, and you know who you are in Chicago, who's a dean, and the other one who's a principal, or she's going to be a principal in Alabama, you all deserve what happens, because you should be telling the students, telling the district school board we have to change this, and you all keep your mouths shut because you're afraid you're going to get in trouble with massa.
Union is an African. I have heroes who are biracial. Some of the grandfathers of Pan-Africanism were of mixed racial ancestry. You don't blame a child for how they got here.
But I'm asking you this here. Harry Belafonte is a white wife. No respect for him?
It would be very, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your social status.
So no. I didn't say social. I'm talking about the one who put the work.
Right, but you put him out.
No. I'm asking you. So Harry Belafonte.
Yes, sir.
Sidney Poitier, Julian Bond, Vernon Jordan.
And you're naming all them to say what?
No, these are all African American men who have
done some good things.
No, who married white women. But you said any black man who marries a white woman will not get your respect.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
And what I'm telling you is this. I don't care who you name. I don't care how much work you did for black people. Your greatest commitment to black people is being committed to a black woman. It is still a contradiction. No matter how much you think you did for the struggle, if you really were concerned with black people, you would have committed yourself to a black woman. So it doesn't matter how successful they are. It doesn't matter how great you may claim them to be. At the end of the day, you didn't think enough about your own people to marry a woman who looks like you.
Frederick Douglass.
Yes, sir. An ancestor of mine.
So when you say ancestor, what does that mean?
Let me break it down.
Because again, some have said you tried to claim that you are a descendant of Frederick Douglass.
Okay, so let's deal with that.
So hold on 1 second. Here's a statement from the family. Let me go ahead and read this, please. The family of Frederick Douglass has received numerous inquiries about Umar Johnson, questioning his relationship to Frederick Douglass. There have also been questions about his legitimacy of his PhD and the handling of the donations he's received for his school that he is promoting. We can tell you with 100% certainty that he is not a descendant of Frederick Douglass. With that being said, Mr. Johnson is very careful not to bill himself as a descendant, but he doesn't correct people when they refer to him in this way. He calls himself a blood relative, which is a nebulous reference designed to make people think he is a descendant. We have researched his explanation of being a blood relative to the great abolitionist. Some of the information he provides is accurate, but an extremely important piece of his explanation with regards to a documented relative of Frederick Douglass is false. The information he recites correctly is from the public record, so his knowledge of our family ancestry is far from definitive proof.
Two things there. One, he's not a descendant of Frederick Douglass. Okay, I would concur with that. All right, but then two, you also heard that some of the things he says is correct. So the question becomes, he's either related or he's not. Okay,
so are you related?
I'm about to answer your question. Okay, allow me to do that. I am a blood relative of Frederick Douglass. My name is on the family tree. We have a family reunion every 2 years. What they're talking about, I want to make sure you're clear. They're talking about whether or not I come through the loin of Frederick Douglass, which I do not, nor have I ever claimed. Okay? I have more videos on YouTube than any other scholar. I speak around the world more than any other scholar. Show me where I've ever said I was a descendant. I've only claimed one thing, kinsman. How am I kinsman? If you ever read any of the autobiographies of Frederick Douglass, he talks about growing up on Tuckahoe Creek with Cousin Stephen. Cousin Stephen is Stephen Bailey, Dr. Umar Johnson's 4 times great-grandfather, whose grave I just visited last week. I go every year. Okay, that's my 4 times great-grandfather. He married my 4 times great-grandmother, Caroline Wilson Bailey. From that union came my 3 times great-grandfather, George Washington Bailey, the first black public school teacher on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. He married Grandmom Annie. They had Grandmom Caroline. Okay, she had Grandmom Vivian. Grandma Vivian married a Spanish-speaking Cuban immigrant.
I guess this genealogy is just too much. Come on now. escape. Okay, so while you're doing that, we're going to go to this here. This is an email that I put out quite a while ago. And this is all U.S. colleges know black has no standing at law. And this was final guidance on maintaining, collecting, and reporting racial and ethnic data to the U.S. Note, standards call for self-identification of race and ethnicity. If anybody wants a copy of this email, send an email to talkthen19@gmail.com and you will get a copy of this email. Within this email is the actual, what we have here is the actual PDF of the event from AIR 2008 Annual Forum in May 24, 2008 in Seattle. So when we go to, and it says final guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. Elise Miller was the IPEDS program director. I don't know if she still is now. And NCES, which is the National Center for Education Statistics. And Jan Plotzik was the team leader at the time for IPEDS data collection and NCES. So when we go to page 5, it states that they call for implementation by 2010 in order to report for the data, report data for the 2010 to 2011 academic year. And it encourages institutions already collecting race and ethnicity in the new format to begin reporting immediately. For iPads, immediately means 2008-2009 collection. So we're in 2017, which is, you're looking at 9 to almost 10 years ago that this was implemented. For the colleges to implement, because in 1997 they were supposed to start and they had not done that. So now when we go to page 9, let me see here, okay, page 9, under self-identification, standards call for self-identification of race and ethnicity. So for all you black people out there who say you want a solution, you want a remedy for your problems, here it is. The government is saying you identify your race. They have no qualm with that, and the standards allow for that. They're not going to choose your race for you unless you don't supply it. If you don't, then they'll make a visual determination. But they're saying, you tell us what your race is, and we'll honor it. That's the one time in history the U.S. has honored any of their agreements. Now, the Department of Education encourages institutions to allow current students and staff to re-identify the race and ethnicity. So for all you that are going to college now, that now you're seeing this and like, well, can I do this? I have student loans. I'm at the registrar. They have me as black. You know, I'm with the Black Students Union. Yeah, you can go down and to the registrar and tell them you want to change your race and ethnicity. They have to follow it. That is the quote-unquote law. That is the standard. Okay? So let's see if we can get back to this video here.
Grandpop Cicero. They had Grandmom Ida, who's still alive, who married James Johnson, who had my father Jamal, who married my mama Barbara, and from that union I was born. I am a blood of belly, I am not married in. What they're talking about is strictly descendancy, something I've never claimed. Am I a kin? Do I directly come from the loin of the first cousin and potentially half brother of Frederick Douglass? And the reason I say potentially.
So while that's pausing, oh, I got tabs. We're going to go to this. Now, this is one that black scholars, this video here, they stay away from this. Much appreciation and gratitude to Willie Wesley TV. They hate this video because then they have to explain, okay, since black is a status and not a nationality, what are you? They cannot explain that. And that's why your African American Studies teacher, I don't care if the African American Studies teacher is Caucasian or black, they will not touch this video with a 10-foot pole, because it obliterates the curriculum, not only from the university PhD level, it eliminates all the curriculum down to kindergarten and preschool, because now you're telling people to call themselves something they are not. These people who are nothing are interfacing in a world where they are nothing, and said, I'm being treated like nothing because you keep saying the word black. Black equals nothing. Don't fall for the 444 from Jay-Z, because he's dancing with spirit cookers. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for any of these other guys out here. The fact still remains. Barack Obama's statement stands, and Tom Joyner won't release the audio or the video because it's true. Black has no standing at law. That's why I am white and American Indian.
Handed down by the Supreme Court in 1857 is the Dred Scott decision, which was handed down by the Supreme Court in 1857, is one of the most famous or infamous decisions in all of the history of the Supreme Court. And it arose out of some complicated issues, but what it basically had to do with was the power of Congress to prohibit slavery in the Western territories. Dred Scott had been brought as a slave into the territory of Wisconsin, where slavery had been barred by Congress, and later he sued for his freedom on the ground that he had been in a place where slavery had been abolished and therefore should be considered free. And this goes all the way up through various courts, and the Supreme Court eventually rules no, Dred Scott's not free, because two reasons. One, Congress does not have the right to prohibit slavery in the territories, and this basically declares the Republican Party unconstitutional. The Republican platform, Lincoln's platform, which is to prohibit slavery in the territories, the Supreme Court said you can't do that. Slavery is a right to go anywhere within the country in a territory, not a state. A state can abolish slavery, Illinois did, but the territories which belong to the whole country, slavery is a right to go there. The second principle put down by Chief Justice Taney in the Dred Scott decision was that blacks cannot be citizens of the United States. In a sense, Dred Scott can't even sue because he's not an American. This is one of the best examples of this notion of blacks as aliens. Even though he's born here and everything, he is not an American. The American family, as Taney says, is for white people. And in the most famous sentence in that decision, he says, a black man has no rights which a white man is bound to respect. Now, he's not saying blacks can be killed with impunity. What he's saying is, legally speaking, they are not part of the body politic. They are not part of the we the people that created the Constitution, and therefore they're just outside of this system. So they don't have any rights under the Constitution because the Constitution is for white people. Now people have denounced Taney ever since for this, and for good reason, but the fact is this decision was codifying widely held views in American society, North and South. You're blaming the messenger in a sense if you simply hold the Chief Justice responsible for these views. But it's certainly the position that Congress could not stop the westward spread of slavery discredited the Supreme Court in the eyes of large numbers of Northerners, including Lincoln. Lincoln is denouncing them after this and saying, Lincoln, who is a law-abiding guy, says we don't have to recognize this decision. We're going to ignore it. It's a bad decision. And when the Republicans get in, we are not going to abide by the Dred Scott decision. So it shows you how far the sectional dispute has gotten, that a guy like Lincoln will say the ruling of the Supreme Court can just be ignored because it's so, wrong-headed.
Okay, so where are the black scholars, the black legal eagles, the black law students? I know you're watching my weekly addresses. I know you're watching the weekly words. We know you're seeing the videos that we put up. You can't comment because you are under contract, and you know it. So, let's see. Let's go here, yes. This is the most important one, where Barack Obama says, black has no standing at law. And so it's very interesting how Roland Martin, Umar Johnson, how did all these scholars and educators miss this statement? So if you call yourself black, you're saying you have no standing. So Taye Diggs is 100% correct in saying He finds it abusive for his son to be called black. You damn right it's abusive for your son to be called black. Black has no standing at law. Black is a word used in genocide, apartheid, rape, forced assimilation, etc. The word black is a crime against humanity. Okay, let's see if this is going to kick in here. Okay, this is on Facebook. So here it is. So this has still been up here since October 16, 2012. So black has no standing at law. So with this, let me see if we can get back to this video. If it's clips on, if it's, hold on, what happened here?
House for Black America. I get tremendous respect.
I'm not talking about that. Do you respect Frederick Douglass?
Avi, yes. Question I told you, I don't care how much work you put in. If you don't commit yourself to a black woman, ultimately you wasn't totally committed to the struggle.
Even Frederick Douglass?
Even Frederick Douglass has to be criticized, as I did on the Breakfast Club. Now it has to be put in context. He didn't marry the white woman until he was an old man. After his wife, Anna Murray Douglas, of 50 years, a blue black chocolate woman through whom all my cousins were born, he was an old man.
Okay, so then, so I guess this is a bit much for News One and UMAR Johnson, but that's fine. Point has been proven.
When he did it, but nonetheless he did it. And yes, he has to be criticized on that, because a black man needs to be with a black woman, and it is a contradiction. I don't care how much work you think you've done for black.
Okay, so that's it. We're gonna stop there. Y'all can watch the rest. You know how to find it. The point has been proven. So again, I put out a universal planetary challenge to all black scholars, black PhDs, black lawyers, black judges, black police officers, to black politicians. Let's see, who else did I miss? Politicians. Oh, black artists, black musicians, black everything. I'll take all of you all on. Answer me this one question. Show me where the word black has standing at law. And you can't go to the Civil Rights Act, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, because in court, the U.S. Supreme Court already ruled on January 18th, 2011 that judges can void the Constitution. So black is nothing. Black is whack, as I've said before. Black is crack, and black is a word used in genocide. Black is the word black, African American, black, is a crime against humanity. And with that, this is Weekly Word 84. Anukimaku nubu at yunat, sagaramaku shel at sakata am shel yamasi nuwabiyanat, wahaza kalun kalun.